Do you know what the seabed of the Baltic Sea looks like? As a part of Geosites project, studies were carried out in the open Baltic Sea, approximately 60 kilometers offshore from Pāvilosta, in an area where water depths range from 20 to 40 meters. In this area, the seabed is marked by underwater landforms, rising to around 4 meters. They were created by the glacier and later reshaped by sea currents. These structures consist of moraine, stony clay, and represent a relatively rare type of underwater relief in the Baltic Sea. While similar formations can be found elsewhere in the Baltic Sea, they are relatively rare.
In the past, the area of the modern-day Baltic Sea basin was a vast plain cut through by a network of river valleys. Tens of thousands of years ago, as the Scandinavian continental glacier advanced towards the Baltic states, it eroded the rocks and sediments on this plain, thus creating the Baltic seabed as we know it today. As the ice mass varied, the seabed developed unevenly, meaning it's deeper near Sweden, but towards the Baltic states it gradually became shallower. When the continental glacier later retreated, the material that had eroded and carried with it, like stones, clay, and sand, was deposited both on land and at sea, including within our study area. The moraine ridges formed here as the continental glacier deposited this material and later was reshaped by seabed currents, creating small canyon-like channels.
Latvia's open coastal waters are home to a protected habitat of European Union importance, stony shoals known as reefs. This is one of the most important and ecologically significant habitat types in the eastern Baltic Sea.
These areas are home from different species of invertebrates, macroalgae and fish. The main species on these reefs is blue mussels. It filters the water, helping to keep it clean. Over time, mussels can filter a huge amount of the water, essentially entire Baltic Sea, and they are also an important food source for the fish and the water birds. But what would happen if these reefs and mussels living on them disappeared? The Baltic Sea would become more turbid, the water less clear, and the whole food web would be disrupted. This would affect fish stocks and their long-term sustainability. That's why it's so important to study both the geological structures of these reefs and their biodiversity.
In the summer of 2025, a research team from the Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology set out on an expedition to a study site in the open Baltic Sea. The expedition began at the port of Liepāja, where the team spent 5 days at sea, living and working aboard the sailing vessel Brabander from Klaipėda University.
So first we used underwater camera to record video in the study site. And this allowed us to explore the underwater environment, study these moraine clay formations that appeared as raised ridges with depressions between them and identify their precise locations.
With the precise location of the moraines identified, 4 researchers descended to the seabed. Diving operations were conducted repeatedly at 3 sites until necessary data had been collected.
Our goal was to get really detailed information, so we split the work into different tasks. Some of us were drilling and cutting into the moraine formations, while others were collecting smaller stones for further geological analysis. At the same time, we also collected biological samples. Basically, they are living organisms on the stones and the moraines. While diving, we also recorded additional video and took photos for later analysis. This includes also building a 3D model that will allow others to explore and better understand the underwater landscape.
After collection, the biological samples were prepared for further laboratory analysis. In the laboratory, they were washed and sorted, and the species of living organisms were identified. Although macrozoobenthos organisms can be seen without magnification, a binocular microscope was used to observe them in a greater detail and ensure analytical accuracy. Each identified species was also assessed by biomass, as biomass is an important indicator of its contribution to the functioning of the marine ecosystem. The geological samples did not require special storage conditions. The moraine, clay and rocks collected from the seabed were brought to the laboratory for detailed analysis. There, moraine samples were dried, classified and analyzed to determine their mineral and chemical composition using a variety of microscopes. Rock samples were examined to identify their origin, structure, texture and mineral content, while limestone samples were analyzed for traces of fossils.
By studying the seabed of the Baltic Sea and its sediments, we can interpret the development history and age of both the Baltic Sea and our study area. Conducting detailed investigations in a specific area as such allows us to explain these unique landforms more reliably and improves our overall understanding of the Baltic Sea's submarine relief.
So the research is not easy. Working at sea often means dealing with challenging conditions. So every sample and observation is especially valuable. So we study not only the seafloor landscape, but also habitats, which are reefs that provide important living space for many species. Using the data we collected and 3D models, we can show what actually lies beneath the surface. This also helps to understand that these habitats are not limited to a single location, but occur more widely across the open Baltic Sea. The more we explore, the clearer it becomes that the seafloor is diverse and still not fully understood.
What we see here is only a small glimpse of the bigger picture. Detailed research in the study area allows us to observe and understand an underwater relief that extends far beyond this single location. From ridges left behind by glaciers to forms carved by today's currents, this landscape is still evolving, shaped by processes that continue even now.